the Golden State Warriors are in the midst of one of the greatest runs in NBA history. But are they the greatest, or just the luckiest? As you all probably know by now, the Golden State Warriors have officially swept the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 2018 NBA Finals to win their third title in the past 4 years, further cementing their place among the greatest teams in the history of the league. To put that in perspective, since the formation of the NBA in 1947, only 5 other teams have ever done what Golden State has just done. Those teams were the Minneapolis Lakers, who won 5 rings in 6 years from 1948 to 1954, Bill Russell's seemingly untouchable Celtics dynasty, which won an insane 12 titles in 13 years, the Showtime Lakers with Kareem and Magic, the iconic Shaq and Kobe three-peat, and of course, Jordan's legendary pair of three-peats with the Chicago Bulls. In other words, let's get one thing straight. This Golden State Warriors team is one of the greatest teams that have ever been assembled. I'll be the first to say it. So I don't mean to take anything away from their tremendous accomplishments with this video. With that being said, when you look at all of these balls that have bounced their way, it's almost impossible to deny that they've had at least a bit of luck. Or even, let's be honest, a shit ton of luck. And I'm not just talking JR. Let's start at the beginning. The seed that would eventually sprout the dynasty. The 2009 NBA Draft. Now, going into this draft, everybody agreed that the Wooden Award winner from Oklahoma, named Blake Griffin, would and should be the number 1 pick.
Before that draft, I went on record on this show saying I would take Steph over Blake at number 1 in that draft.
Well, almost everybody. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. But even though it's now obvious that the Clippers made the wrong choice, you can't blame them at all for picking Griffin given his numbers and measurables. The same goes for the OKC Thunder, who went with a scoring machine from Arizona State named James Harden, and even the Kings, who picked freshman phenom from Memphis named Tyreke Evans. Oh, and even Hasheem Thabeet was an effective center from UConn. It's hard to believe, I know, but just trust me on that one. The real luck came when the Minnesota Timberwolves came on the clock. In the year leading up to that draft, despite having a poor record, the Wolves roster really didn't look all that horrendous, as they were led by a rookie Kevin Love and big man Al Jefferson, who averaged 23 points a game that year. There was a glaring hole, however, at point guard, as the only 2 players at the position on the entire roster were a 36-year-old Kevin Ali, that Kevin Ali, who averaged a whopping 4 points a game, and Sebastian Telfair, who continued to underwhelm after being picked in the lottery a few years back. Lucky enough for the Wolves, who held both the 5th and 6th picks in the draft, the 2009 draft class seemed to be a historically deep and talented class for point guards, with an outrageous and unprecedented 9 players at the position eventually going in the top 20 picks, including eventual starters and all-star level players Jeff Teague, Ty Lawson, and Drew Holiday, all not even going in the lottery. For most, at the very top of the list of this historic class was the Spanish passing sensation, Ricky Rubio. Rubio was already a legend overseas, having played his first professional game at just 14 years old. This guy was traveling around Europe as a pro at an age before most of us knew how to do laundry. And even with his youth, his ball handling and court vision was clear. So, the Timberwolves picked him. He figured to be a perfect fit for the Wolves as a pass-first guard to feed their 2 beastly post scorers that they already had in Love and Jefferson. Even after drafting Rubio, though, many still believed that Minnesota would double dip into the talented point guard pool. And that's just what they did. After picking a pure point guard at 5 in Rubio, the Timberwolves looked to find a score-first complement. And who was available? Oh, only the leading scorer in the entire nation, named Steph Curry. It was a match made in heaven. Except, they picked Johnny Flynn.
Are you kidding me?
I'm with you, Skip. It's not that he wasn't a good prospect, Johnny Flynn actually showed many flashes of offensive brilliance at Syracuse and performed very well during March Madness in his sophomore season. But so had Steph Curry. Except his stats were just significantly and objectively better. So much better that the lower level of competition argument wasn't even a valid excuse for the disparity. So, with this pick, the Timberwolves had selected 2 point guards before Stephen Curry. And we all know who had the 7th pick. The Warriors. The Warriors, with their prayers answered, opened their eyes and pretty much found Steph Curry laying in their lap. And to their credit, they picked him. The Warriors followed this absolute steal by taking a chance on a pure sharpshooter from Washington State in the 2011 draft named Klay Thompson at pick 11, and then taking a low-risk shot in the dark in the second round of the next draft on a 6'6", out-of-shape power forward that went by the name Draymond Green. Despite their fortunes in the draft, it seemed that the Warriors' luck had finally begun to run out, as the clearly talented Stephen Curry was marred by ankle injuries for the first 3 seasons of his career. The issues were so bad that by the end of the 2011-12 season, during which Curry played only 26 games, many called for the Warriors to let Steph walk in free agency to extend shooting guard Monte Ellis instead. Ultimately, the Warriors would bet on the younger, more talented Curry, but his contract reflected his major injury concerns as he was signed to a 4-year, $44 million contract. It seemed like a reasonable deal for the risk that Curry presented, but miraculously, those chronic injuries that plagued Curry's early years disappeared almost immediately after he signed the deal, as he finished the following season averaging 23 points a game and leading the young Warriors from 23 to 47 wins. He improved again the following year, making his first All-Star team and leading the Warriors to an impressive 51 wins, and he still wasn't even close to being done. Seemingly out of nowhere, the next year, the 2014-2015 season, Curry mania ensued. The Warriors exploded to 67 wins as Klay Thompson became an All-Star, Draymond Green emerged as a valuable contributor, and Curry went from rising star to MVP, just like that. Together, these 3 led their team all the way to the NBA Finals, where they would meet LeBron James in his first year on the new-look Cavaliers. The Cavs, though, were already down one of their All-Stars in Kevin Love, and with just 2 minutes left in the overtime of a tight Game 1, their other All-Star, Kyrie Irving, broke his knee, leaving LeBron on his own to fend off a red-hot Golden State team. LeBron somehow incredibly powered the Cavaliers to winning Games 2 and 3, but was eventually unable to shoulder the load, losing in 6. Whether or not the Warriors would have lost to a fully healthy Cavs team will forever be unknown. But considering LeBron himself was able to take it to 6, it's hard to believe that the series wouldn't have been much closer. Anyways, the next year, even after it seemed they couldn't get any better, the Warriors would improve even more, as now Draymond would make his first All-Star team, and Steph Curry would go on to win his second MVP, this time unanimously, as the Warriors would crack the Bulls' legendary 72-10 season with an otherworldly 73 wins. But despite their regular season dominance, the playoffs weren't quite as easy, as the Warriors faced a 3-1 game deficit to the Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook-led Thunder. It took spectacular performances from Steph and Klay, along with an all-time crumble from the side of the Thunder, for the Warriors to crawl back and take the series. In the finals, they would get to play LeBron's Cavs once again, but this time, LeBron had help. The Cavs proceeded to turn the tables on Golden State, winning 3 straight after going down 3-1 in the series on their way to the biggest finals comeback of all time. Clearly, the Warriors were more than talented enough to win with that roster. They won 73 damn games, but they just wanted to be a bit more sure of their talent. Remember that deal that Curry signed back in 2012? Well, that outrageous bargain of a contract is what allowed the Warriors to sign maybe the most infamous free agent deal of all time, sending Kevin Durant, who had just blown 3 chances to defeat the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, to Golden State, forming the super team of all super teams. So, those old ankle injuries that almost ruined Curry's career turned out to be another lucky draw for the Warriors. The luck would continue during Kevin Durant's first year on the team, as, in the conference finals, down as much as 25 in Game 1 to the Kawhi Leonard-led Spurs, Zaza Pachulia did the only thing that Zaza Pachulia could do to contribute to the series. He took Kawhi out. Again, whether the Spurs would have beaten the Warriors with Kawhi is obviously up for debate, but in my opinion, it damn sure wouldn't have ended up in the sweep that it did. This year, that luck in the conference finals reared its head again, as, down 3-2 to the number 1 seeded Houston Rockets, Chris Paul suffered a severe hamstring injury that would take him out of the series and let the Warriors breeze to another finals victory over LeBron's worst finals team since 2007. And let's not even get started on the game-changing refereeing mistakes that were made throughout this year's finals. Or J.R. Smith. Yeah, don't even talk about J.R. Smith. So let's recap. In 2015, the Warriors got to face the Cavaliers without their second and third best players, and still got taken to 6 games. In 2017, they got to play the Spurs without their best player for pretty much the entire series. In the only period that he did play, the Spurs were up by as much as 25 points. And in 2018, the Warriors, down 3-2, got to come back on the Rockets without their second best player, Chris Paul, who was arguably playing like their best player throughout the series. Oh, and 2016, the year they lost, was the one year that they played all of their opponents at full strength. Coincidence? Maybe, but it's still worth mentioning. Again, I fully recognize greatness when I see it, and the Warriors are great, historically great. And let's be clear, every championship team in history has needed some lucky breaks along the way. It's just part of sports. At the end of the day, the Warriors played the teams in front of them, and they made the most of their opportunities. How can you blame them for that? But when a team is being considered for the greatest of all time, like the Warriors are, I think it's pretty important and interesting to look at these things. Anyways, that's all I got for this time. I'm going to be making many more videos like this, so stay tuned. With that, I'm out. See you next time.